Shana Tova and Happy New Year 5782. We are Congregation Beth HaTikva in Summit, New Jersey. Thank you for joining us. You can find all the details of our high holiday celebrations on our website, bethatikva.org, including service times and a downloadable Moxor. This year, we are offering a hybrid experience with our attendees here in person and others joining virtually. Attendees at indoor programming have pre-registered, shared their proof of full vaccine status, and are observing social distance in the sanctuary while remaining masked with their cell phones off. Our service leaders and singers, in addition, have also had negative COVID tests recently so that they will be unmasked while in their designated spots. Our outdoor services do not require proof of vaccine status, but do require masking. If you're joining services through our YouTube channel, please sit back and enjoy the service. If you're joining through a Zoom link, we invite you to turn on your camera if you're comfortable doing so. There will be opportunities to connect with other participants during the service through the Zoom chat window. Be sure to select the correct recipient. In your Zoom app, you'll find the option to switch between active speaker and gallery mode. We recommend selecting active speaker view to better experience the service here at CBH. All participant audio will be muted except at specific times when the rabbi will point out. Also, during the service, the rabbi will ask you to stand at times when you would have done so if you were here in the sanctuary, if you are able and wish to do so. This morning, we invite you and your family to join us later for Kiddush and blessings over the challah virtually. Then, for those planning to attend Tashlicht in person, we will depart from the CBH front door at about 15 minutes following the end of these services. Thank you for sharing your holidays with us, and our service begins now.
Shana Tova, Good Yontiv, Chag Sameach. I wish you all a sweet and happy and healthy new year. This year, I will be teaching a lifelong learning series based on a book called Here All Along. The book is by Sarah Hurwitz, who spent a decade as a political speechwriter, including as the head speechwriter for Michelle Obama. She's Jewish, but she had never really paid much attention to Judaism. Then she happened upon an Introduction to Judaism class, and she discovered the beauty and wisdom in Judaism that she had never known was there. She says that she wrote this book to try to close the gap between the richness that Judaism offers and the way so many Jews experience it. I want to begin our service this morning with a passage she wrote on Jewish holidays. She says, Jewish holidays articulate themes that Judaism emphasizes all year round: caring for those on the margins, living life fully awake, returning to our pure soul's truest selves, the divine. But I worry that for some of us, the traditional rituals don't always serve their intended purpose. For most of my life, I figured that this is just how Judaism is. Meaningful in some vague way, occasionally fun, but generally dull and hard to understand. And while there's nothing wrong with the kind of synagogue experience where we just let the music and the Hebrew words wash over us and enjoy the time offline, I think we deserve more. She continues, I'm certainly not saying to abandon holiday traditions. Just the opposite. I think we should assume that each one of them has something profound to teach us, something that will touch our souls and transform our lives. but we need to put some effort into finding it. We need to keep digging, learning, and interpreting until we unearth the beating heart meaning of these holidays. And we need to celebrate them in ways that bring those meanings to life so that their lessons stay with us long after they have ended. I hope that whether you are here in person or at home on Zoom, that these services will help you unearth the beating heart meaning of these holidays and allow you to celebrate the holidays in ways that bring that meaning to your life. We begin with Matovu on page 140 in the Machzor. I just realized that one of the things that I love to do at High Holiday services is make eye contact with people and smile at them. When I have my mask on, just know I'm smiling at you. So the pandemic is dragging on and still restricting our lives in many ways, but we will not let that stop us. Congregation Beth Hatikva is a creative, innovative community, and we love a challenge. This year, our yearly unifying message is Teshuvah, we begin again. One of the ways that we are beginning again this year is with an exciting makeover of our religious school. Our new education director, Limor Elman, and past president, Margie Tickner, have recreated, reimagined, and reconstructed religious education. And instead of calling it religious school, we are calling it Re-School. So look out for more about that in the coming year. At Re-School, Jewish artist educators will use visual, art, music, drama, photography, and gardening to fulfill our goal, which is the making of a Jewish kid. Another exciting way that we are beginning again this year is that we have a rabbinic intern for the first time. He will bring new ideas, knowledge, music, and creativity to our community. Adam Serino-Jones is a fifth-year student at the Reconstructionist Rabbinical College, and I've asked Adam to introduce himself to you this morning. But first, I want to highlight a few of the reasons that we picked Adam and that we think he will be a great fit for our community. Adam said that he was drawn to Reconstructionist Judaism because it encourages intellectual exploration and bravery. As he put it, Reconstructionist Judaism grapples with the yucky parts of our tradition, as well as valuing the parts that are beautiful and generative. Adam feels that becoming a rabbi allows him to pursue the things that are most important to him: community building, teaching, music, social justice, studying, and writing. Adam loves teaching and asking questions that promote discussion. He's sensitive to meeting people at their level of knowledge. He gets what CBH member Archie Gottesman calls Jew-barrassment. Adam says that music has been the language of his life. He will be sharing some of his music throughout the holidays and throughout the year, and you will see how beautifully Adam speaks the language of music. Finally, Adam is skilled at leading meetings and actually loves being on committees. He says, even though sometimes you can do things faster or easier yourself, the quality of the work is much better when a group works together. Adam will fit well into the collaborative spirit of Congregation Beth Hatikva. So with no further ado, I give you Adam Serino-Jones.
Morning, everyone. Shana Tova. I'm thrilled to be here with you this morning and starting my work at CBH in earnest. I'd like to just take a quick moment to tell you a little bit about myself and where I'm at in my rabbinic journey. I was born in New York and lived on the Upper West Side until my early childhood when my family moved to Baltimore, which is where I grew up. My mom is Jewish and my dad was raised Methodist, though he stopped going to church on his 18th birthday. I didn't grow up Jewishly active really at all, though I always felt really Jewish, even if I couldn't articulate what that meant. I went to Macalester College in the Twin Cities in Minnesota, and in my second year got connected with the campus rabbi. And over the next several years, he dissuaded me of a lot of preconceived notions I held about how Jewish I could really ever be, given my background, how anyone of my background and belief system could ever be a rabbi. On his recommendation, though, and after years of thought and reflection, I ended up applying to rabbinical school and chose to go to RRC for a variety of reasons, but most importantly, because of the institution's admittance of students with non-Jewish partners. My wife, Catherine, was raised Catholic, and though she's very knowledgeable about and invested in Judaism, she remains not Jewish at this point. We moved to Philadelphia in the summer of 2017, and I started at RRC the following fall. While a student at RRC, I've had the pleasure of interning at Or Zarua, a small home-based congregation on Philadelphia's Main Line, and at the Hillels at the University of Delaware and Haverford College. Entering my last year, I'm so excited to learn about this community and everyone in it, and to get a better sense of sort of what community I'm looking for post-ordination. With all that said, music is a big part of my rabbinate, as Rabbi mentioned, so I'm going to play a song, and hopefully we're going to learn it together. This is a song, the setting of Elohai Neshama is by a Mizrahi musician named Chloe Pourmadi. Sure, please.
So if you are going to sing along, Elohai Neshama is on page 172.
Great, thank you. And this was introduced to me and the RRC community by my colleague Mei Yi. So the words, Elohai Neshama Shenatata Bi Tehorahi. So Elohai Neshama, my God, the soul Shenatata Bi that you gave to me, Tehorahi, it is pure. It's really one of the most beautiful prayers we have. And so this is kind of a call and response thing. So you'll sort of just do what I do. We'll play it a few times and then we'll sing it, okay? So it starts like this. Elohai Neshama Shenatata Bi. Great, and then we all sing this part together. So then it goes Shenatata Bi Tehorahi. One more time. Shenatata Bi Tehorahi. All right, that whole thing one more time. Elohai Neshama Shenatata Bi. And then together. Shenatata Bi Tehorahi. Okay, right? So that's the first part. The second part, we're going to go up. Okay, so this one, similar thing. We're call and response and then together, okay? So, Elohai Neshama Shenatata Bi. Okay, and then this part's together. Shenatata Bi Tehorahi. All right, so that whole part one more time. Elohai Neshama Shenatata Bi Shenatata Bi Tehorahi. All right, let's do it. Elohai Neshama Elohai Neshama Shenatata Bi Shenatata Bi Tehorahi. Elohai Neshama Shenatata Bi Shenatata Bi Tehorahi. All right, up here we go. Elohai Neshama Shenatata Bi Shenatata Bi Tehorahi. Elohai Neshama Shenatata Bi Shenatata Bi
This morning, the first thing that our president, Arlene Soldati, said to me was, we made a good choice with Adam. I think you'll all can see what she means. That was beautiful. Thank you, Adam. I don't need to, I was going to read the words to the prayer, but I don't need to because Adam expressed it very beautifully. So instead, we now continue with Psalm 150 on page 262.
Please join me and read on the screen. Hineni, here I am. Here I am, one soul within this prayer community. Like those around me, I bring my own concerns and yearnings to this place, hoping they will find expression in the time-hallowed words of my people and in the traditions cherished by generations before me. May I bring the best of my energies to these holy days, approaching this spiritual work with open heart and mind, sincerity, and sustained focus on the deep questions of this season. Who am I? How shall I live? Where have I fallen short or failed? Today, I take up the challenge of the days of awe, cheshbon hanefesh, searching examination of my life, a moral inventory of my deeds, words, and thoughts. During the next 10 days, let me face the truth about myself and listen to your still, small voice, taking comfort in your promise that I am always free to change. Released from staleness and routine, let me know the joy of beginning again. May I gain strength as I share this task with those around me, united by our common purpose, tikkun midot, improving our characters, and tikkun olam, repairing the world. I now prepare myself to pray, one soul amidst this holy congregation.
Please turn to page 270. And as we do prepare to pray, we'll lay down a connection with our ancestors through music by invoking the traditional melodies of the high holiday morning. Al kiseram v'nisa. Turning the page. Shochen ad marom v'kadosh mo v'chatu ranenu tzadikim Adonai v'aisharim avat hila b'fi sharim titromam ובדברי צדיקים תתברך, ובלשון חסידים תתקדש, ובקרב קדושים תתעלה. And we turn to page 276 for the Chatzi Kaddish. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה וילמד יברך חירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומכון וחיי דרכו בית ישראל בגאולה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה. ריחו לעילה לעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן.
Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
I hope you can hear me with my mask.
Yeah, pretty well.
Okay, okay. Welcome to all of you here in the sanctuary and to everyone on Zoom. Welcome to Congregation Beth HaTikva's High Holiday Services. I am Arlene Soldati, and I have the honor of being president of this congregation. Almost a year ago, in October 2020, after being a member of CBH for 25 years, I was called, not by God, but by Amy Klein, chair of the nominating committee, asking me to consider being president of CBH. I answered, yes, Hineni, here I am. And this past January, in the midst of the pandemic, I began my term as president. Our return to CBH is different from what I and probably most of you imagined it would be. I didn't think I would be giving my Rosh Hashanah speech appearing in a disguise, a mask, glasses, and a yarmulke. If you want to know what I look like, turn to page 3 of your High Holiday Program booklet. We are still not 300 people sitting shoulder to shoulder, praying and singing together. But today in our imaginations and in our spirits, we are together. And we'll be praying and singing with full hearts. When it seems like everything is going wrong, when expectations become disappointments, I could speak about pain and frustration and anger, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to speak about joy. Renowned teacher Arthur Green states, Despite the fact that Jewish history has more than its share of bleak and depressing chapters, the tradition sees itself as a joyous one. Rabbis have prepared sermons, cantors have rehearsed, choirs have practiced, synagogue boards and committees have worked to create meaningful, joyous holiday experiences for everyone. Here at CBH and all over the world, our people have gathered to participate in our Jewish traditions, our guideposts to joy, in person, outdoors, on Zoom, streaming, we are gathered together. Our theme for this year is Teshuvah, we begin again. That implies that something has ended or stopped, that something has changed or is different in some profound way. I think we can say that this describes our experience of this past year and a half. Workplaces are transformed. Shopping is a different experience, as is education and schooling. Worship has changed. For many people, where they live has changed. Their careers and work have changed. It seems our theme for this past year has been change. Technology has affected every part of our lives. We have learned to be alone, and we have learned to gather together and yet be apart. In many ways, nothing is the same, and we are not the same. So how do we begin again? Zen teacher Shunryu Suzuki states, in the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities. In the expert's mind, there are few. This is an interesting way to think about Teshuvah, we begin again. As we turn to our traditions and our community, we want it to be the way it was, but that is not possible. What we can do is open our mind and become beginners in the sense that Mr. Suzuki describes. That would mean we can be open to many possibilities. We can reimagine our synagogue community, and with joy, we can embrace change, like wearing blue bracelets for high holidays, deciding to continue doing board meetings on Zoom just because it is easier. Whenever I meet people, they ask kindly and with caring how I am doing, because being president is a lot of work and it is hard. But honestly, I'm not a masochist. When I was asked to be president, my beginner's mind responded, and possibilities seemed to open before me. I am doing something that I never imagined I would do. And yes, it is hard, but it is a joyful thing. As we turn to look at our lives and how we've lived this past year, and do the spiritual and emotional work of Teshuvah, I ask you to also look at the part you play in our CBH community. Just the way Amy Klein called me a year ago, I am calling you. Use your special talent. You can contribute and help make Jewish traditions come alive and create joyful Jewish experiences for yourself and for our community. Use your beginner's mind and look at the possibilities that can open up to you. What is it that you never imagined you would do here at CBH? Join with me. Become an active and fully engaged member of our community. Begin again. I wish you all a happy and a sweet and healthy new year. Thank you.
Thank you, Arlene. And with that call to action, I should introduce myself to those of you who don't know me. Like Arlene, I'm our volunteer lay cantor and prayer leader, and I'm also a member of the CBH Singers, which has been led for over a decade by Andy Kaplan, and together with Myra Cole and all the wonderful singers that you see before you, who are also likewise all volunteers and who have heard a call of some sort. And as we turn now to page 277, and we rise to say, as we bless the Kavanah below the line, which will be followed by the Baruch Hu. As we bless the source of life, so we are blessed. As we bless the source of life, so we are blessed. And the blessing gives us strength and makes our visions clear. And the blessing gives us peace and the courage to dare. As we bless the source of life, so we are blessed. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach leolam va'ed.
You may be seated. Since the global pandemic that turned our lives upside down and inside out, there has been a lot of talk about silver linings. And surely there have been some good things. Time to slow down, more time to spend with family, no commuting, connecting with people who live far away. But the metaphor of silver linings implies that silver is good and clouds are bad. So I want to introduce you to the Cloud Appreciation Society. My cousin Joyce lives on an island off the coast of Washington State. Every day, she walks the beach and sends me a photo of the sea and the sky. It's not open ocean. There are no waves, so the water doesn't change very much from day to day. But the sky, oh, the sky is constantly changing. And the most magnificent days are when the sky is filled with clouds. I never tire of those pictures because the clouds are different every day. Sometimes wispy, sometimes fluffy, sometimes dramatic and stormy. When I commented on this to my cousin, she sent me a link to an article about the Cloud Appreciation Society. It's such a great story, I immediately knew I had to share it with all of you. There was a British fellow named Gavin Pretor-Pinney who thought, wouldn't it be fun to have a society that defends clouds against the bad rap that they get? A society that stands up for clouds. So he decided to give a talk called General Lecture of the Cloud Appreciation Society. And afterwards, all these people wanted to join the society. The only problem was that he didn't actually have a Cloud Appreciation Society. So he quickly created a website and people started posting pictures of clouds. And soon he had several thousand members. And then Yahoo placed the site on a list, placed it first on the list of Britain's weird and wonderful websites. So if you have a society and thousands of members, at some point you have to have a conference. So he did, and people came from all over the world to celebrate clouds and the joy of watching clouds. The author of the article that Joyce sent me about the Cloud Appreciation Society wrote that in this story, he found a compelling argument for staying open to varieties of beauty. I love this because I'm always looking for ways to delight in the simple things that are all around us. Gavin Preter-Pinney said that slowing down to appreciate clouds sharpened his ability to appreciate other pockets of beauty hiding in plain sight. Clouds are one of those pockets of beauty hiding in plain sight. They're almost always there, and all we have to do is look up. This is one of the gifts that I hope we can take with us this year as we begin again, taking the time to notice the ordinary beauty that is everywhere if we bother to look. Camille Pissarro wrote, "Blessed are they who see beautiful things in humble places where other people see nothing." May we all be blessed to find beauty in humble places.
Bows and flows of angel hair, and ice cream castles in the air, and feather canyons everywhere. I've looked at clouds that way. Hold on for a second. They're up. But now they only block the sun. Oh, we want to see them so that everyone can see them. I think the clouds got in the way.
Technical difficulties, but soon we are going to notice the clouds. Can I start singing this word yet? Here we go. There we go. Bows and flows of angel hair, and ice cream castles in the air, and feather canyons everywhere. I've looked at clouds that way, but now they only block the sun. They rain and snow on everyone. So many things I would have done, but clouds got in my way. I've looked at clouds from both sides now, from up and down, and still somehow it's clouds' illusions I recall. I really don't know clouds at all.
Rows and flows of angel hair, and ice cream castles in the air, and feather canyons everywhere. I've looked at clouds that way, but now they only block the sun. They rain and snow on everyone. So many things I would have done, but clouds got in my way. I looked at clouds from both sides now, from up and down, and still somehow it's cloud illusions I recall. I really don't know clouds at all.
I hope you enjoyed the clouds. I just wanted to mention that some of them were taken by Leslie Feigen and some by Shlomo Haviv, and a couple from my cousin Joyce, the ones that she sends me. And the song doesn't really go with the message, but there aren't that many songs about clouds. We now turn in our booklets Oh, sorry. Yes, in our booklets to page 17. And we're doing the version of Shema, which is open up our eyes, which I thought was perfect for this idea of noticing the beauty that's all around us in ordinary things. We ask God to open up our eyes and teach us how to pray. Please turn to page 31 in your booklets. Brett Levine will be reading a quote from the same book, Here All Along, from home. Hi, Brett.
The holidays that take place during this period are supposed to break our hearts wide open, prompt a wrenching examination of our souls, and force us to come face to face with our own mortality. During the season, we step back and ask ourselves, how's it going? Not in the meaningless small talk sense of that question, when the response is always fine, but in the big existential sense that requires an honest answer and prompts further questions like, am I a good person? And am I living a good life?
Thank you, Brett. Please turn now to page 318 as we begin the prayers that lead to the Amidah with the Mi Chamocha. Tehilot leil elyon, Baruch hu Mevorach, Moshe u'Miriam u'bnei Yisrael lechanu shira, v'simcha rabba v'amru chulam, Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, Nora tehilot Osefele, Shira charsha shebechu geulim l'shimcha asafat hayam yachad kulam hodu v'imlichu v'amru Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. Please rise. Sur Yisrael, Kuma Bezrat Yisrael, Ufdechinu Mecha Yehuda Yisrael, Go Aleinu Adonai Tzebaot Shemo, Kedosh Yisrael, Baruch Atah Adonai, Gal Yisrael. And please remain standing and turn to page 324 as Andy and the singers lead us in Adonai Sfatai. We stay on page 324 for the beginning of the Amidah prayers, the Avot. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. Turning the page. Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei Hakol. וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימות ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה מסוד החכמים בונים ומלמד דעת מבינים הבטחה פי בתפילה ובתחנונים לחלות ולחנן בני מלך מלכי המלכים ואדוני האדונים. Turning the page. זוכרנו לחיים מלך חפץ בחיים בכל דבנו בספר החיים למענך אלוהים חיים מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. We turn the page. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני רב להושיע מוריד הטל מחכה אל חיים בחסד בחיי כוחי ברחמים רבים צומח נוכלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו לישני עפר מי כמוך בגבורות ומי דומה לך מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה מי כמוך אב הרחמים זוכר וחיים ברחמים ונאמן אתה להחיות כוחי ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי כוחי amen. We turn to page 334. Give you another second. ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהיך ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה. ואתה קדוש יושב, תהילות ישראל, תהילות ישראל, אל נא. Okay, I need to shift over to that spot. We're going to continue with the Unatana Tokef prayer, which begins on page 348, but I'm using a different mic because I'm with the singers. Oh my God, I forgot my music. I actually left it at home, but I'll use it. I got it.
Getting your exercise.
I can raise it way up for you. No, I'm okay. I got it on the. It's funny. It's too late for Cindy to run home and get it. Just this mic live. Good. Thanks, guys. So Unatana Tokef, page 348. Siri is talking to me. She says, "Yes, I thought so." I'm not sure why she says that. Let's see. So Unatana Tokef is the prayer during this Amidah that invokes, it declares the sacred power of this day, and it invokes the legend that all of our fates for next year are written today on Rosh Hashanah and sealed on Yom Kippur. The central melodic theme of this setting, which was written about 40 years ago by Yair Rosenblum, it is about, it's the central melody. There's a phrase, the great shofar is sounded and a still small voice is heard, kol dmama daka. And that still small voice inspires abject terror in the messengers, the angels of God, as they declare, today is the day of judgment. And that same theme actually is revisited in the melody. It recurs at the very end of the song, which contemplates the fleeting nature of our lives. Again, it begins on page 348. There we go. Unatana Tokef kedushat hayom, ki hu nora ve'yom, uvo tinasem malchutecha, v'yikon v'chesed kisecha, v'teshev alav be'emet, v'teshev alav be'emet. Emet ki ata hu dayan mochiach ve'odea va'ed, וכותב וחותם בסופר ומונה, ותזכור את כל הנשכחות, ותפתח ספר הזיכרונות, ומאליו יקרא וחותם יד כל אדם בו. ובשופר גדול ייתקע, קול דממה דקה יישמע, ומלאכים יחפזון, וחילולי עדה יאחזון, ומלאכים יחפזון, וחילולי עדה יאחזון, ובשופר גדול ייתקע, וקול דממה דקה יישמע, ומלאכים יחפזון, וחילולי עדה יאחזון, ומלאכים יחפזון,
וחילוני עדי אוחזון. ויאמרו הנה יום הדין, לפקוד אץ ומרון בדין, כי לא יזכו בניך בדין. וכל באי עולם יעברו לפניך כבני מרון, כבקרת רועה עדרו, מעביר צונו תחת שבטו. וכל באי עולם יעברו לפניך כבני מרון, כבקרת רועה עדרו, מעביר צונו תחת שבטו. כן תעביר ותספור ותמנה ותיקול נפש כל חי, ותחתו קצבה לכל בריאה, וכתיבתו וגזר דינם, ובשופר גדול ייתקע, קול דממה דקה יישמע, ומלאכים יחפזון, וחילוני עדי יאחזון, ומלאכים יחפזון, וחילוני עדי יאחזון, ובשופר גדול ייתקע, וקול דממה דקה יישמע, ומלאכים יחפזון, וחילוני עדי יאחזון, בראש השנה ייכתבון, וביום צום כיפור יחתמון. בראש השנה ייכתבון, וביום צום כיפור יחתמון. כמה יעבורון וכמה יבראון, מי יחיה ומי ימות, מי בקיצו ומי לא בקיצו, מי במים ומי באש, מי בחרב ומי בחיה, מי ברעש ומי במגפה, מי ינוח ומי ינוע, מי שקט ומי טרף, מי שלב ומי ג'סר, מי שלב ומי ג'סר, מי ירום ומי שפל, מי יאשר ומי יעני. ותשובה ותפילה וצדקה מעבירים את רוע הגזרה. אמת כי אתה יוצרם ואתה יודע יצרם, כי הם בשר ודם. אדם ויסודו מעפר וסופו לעפר, ונפשו יביא לחמו. משול כחרס הנשבר, כחציר יבש כחציץ נובר, וכצל עובר, וכענן קלה, וכרוח נושבת, וכאבק פורח, וכחלום יעוף. Turn now to page 356. We continue the Kedusha, and I go back over there. ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלכו הארץ כבודו, כבודו מלא עולם, משרתיו שואלים זה לזה,
איה מקום כבודו, לעומתם ברוך יאמרו, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו יפן ברחמים. ויחונם המייחדים שמו ערב ובוקר, בכל יום תמיד. פעמיים באהבה שמע אומרים, שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד הוא אלוהינו הוא אבינו הוא מלכנו הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו ברחמיו שנית לעיני כוחי והוא ישמיענו ברחמיו שנית לעיני כוחי. להיות לכם לאלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדיר אדירנו, אדוני אדוננו, מאדיר שמך בכל הארץ, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. ובדברי קודשך כתוב לאמור, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהיך ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור, נגיד גדלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, ושיבחך אלוהינו, מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד, כי אל מלך גדול וקדוש אתה. And we may be seated.
Please turn to page 17 in your booklet.
Please rise as the ark is opened and we turn to page 454 for the recitation of Inu Malkeinu. We'll say the refrain, which is at the very end of 454, and then we'll turn back to page 452 to alternatively read. There must be another word for alternatively read, where English and the Hebrew. Read responsibly, perhaps that's the phrase. So
Sort of.
starting with
Well, it's responsive between you and me.
yes. Avinu Malkeinu, Choneinu Vaneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Choneinu Vaneinu, Ki ein banu masim, aseh imanu, tzedakah v'chesed. Aseh imanu, tzedakah v'chesed, v'hoshienu. Turning back. Avinu malkeinu chatanu lefanecha, and together with Rabbi.
Our Creator, our Sovereign, we have done wrong in your presence.
Avinu malkeinu ein lanu melech ela ata.
Our Creator, our Sovereign, we have no one to rule over us but you.
Avinu malkeinu aseh imanu lema'an shemecha.
Our Creator, our Sovereign, to honor your name.
Avinu malkeinu chadesh aleinu shana tova.
Our Creator, our Sovereign, renew us for a good year.
Avinu malkeinu hafer atzat oivenu.
Our Creator, our Sovereign, nullify the plans of any who may seek to do us harm.
Avinu malkeinu salach umechal lechol avonotenu.
Our Creator, our Sovereign, grant forgiveness and atonement for all of our transgressions.
Avinu malkeinu hachazirenu b'tshuva shlema lefanecha.
Our Creator, our Sovereign, help us to return wholeheartedly into your presence.
Avinu malkeinu shlach refuah shlema lacholim.
Our Creator, our Sovereign, send thorough healing to all those who ail.
Avinu malkeinu kotvenu b'sefer chayim tovim.
Our Creator, our Sovereign, inscribe us for good fortune in the book of life.
Avinu malkeinu kotvenu b'sefer geula v'yeshua.
Our Creator, our Sovereign, inscribe us in the book of redemption and salvation.
Avinu malkeinu kotvenu b'sefer parnasa v'chalkala.
Our Creator, our Sovereign, inscribe us in the book of sustenance and livelihood.
Avinu malkeinu kotvenu b'sefer zechuyot.
Our Creator, our Sovereign, inscribe us in the book of merit.
Avinu malkeinu kotvenu b'sefer slicha u'mechila.
Our Creator, our Sovereign, inscribe us in the book of forgiveness and atonement.
Avinu malkeinu hatzmach lanu Yeshua b'karov.
Our Creator, our Sovereign, let grow for us the tree of imminent redemption.
And together. Avinu malkeinu choneinu v'aneinu. Avinu malkeinu choneinu v'aneinu ki ein banu masim. Aseh imanu tzedakah v'chesed. Aseh imanu tzedakah v'chesed v'hoshienu.
Our Creator, our Sovereign, be gracious with us and respond to us. We have no deeds to justify us. Deal with us in righteousness and love, and save us now. You may be seated.
Please turn to page 462. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Yalema dirachirute v'yamlich malchute v'chaychon u'v'yomechon u'mchayed echol beit Yisrael ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'yimeru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mivarach le'olam alamei alamaya yitvarach. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitale v'yitala Shmei Dekudashah Shmei Dekudashah Baruchu La'ela la'ela mikol brachata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata da'amiram be'alma tushbachata v'nechamata da'amiran bi'alema v'imiru amen. Titkabal salo tahon uva utahon dechol be Israel kaldam mavuhon divishmaya 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 v'imiru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim v'chayim aleinu aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yal kol Yisrael v'imiru amen. O say shalom bimromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yal kol yoshvei tevel v'imiru amen.
Great to have Michael back in person doing Kaddish Kabal this year. There is no doubt about it. We are living in a time of upheaval. People are changing jobs, changing careers, moving to the city, moving out of the city, moving out of state, retiring, downsizing, selling businesses, buying businesses. 1 week this summer, after I heard about several people who had sold their businesses and were moving away, I thought, this can't be a coincidence. Of course, there are always a few people making major changes in their lives, but all of this upheaval has to be an effect of the pandemic. The abrupt ending of life as we know it was crazy and stressful and terrible in many ways. But for some people, there was more time and mental space to reflect on our lives. There was space to ask, is this the life I really want? With people dying all around us and the real possibility of contracting a deadly disease, we were faced with something that most people prefer not to think about. We are mortal. Our lives are finite. So how can we make the most of the time that we have? How can we make time for the things that matter to us? How can we make a difference and leave the world a little better than we found it? And how can we make time for the things that bring us joy? This year, Congregation Beth HaTikva yearly unifying message is Teshuvah, we begin again. You might say that these are always the themes of the high holidays. During the days of awe, we strive for repentance and return, and each new year is a chance for a new beginning. But when we chose the yearly unifying message, we felt and believed that this year, return and new beginnings would have a different meaning. Many people were getting vaccinated, things were opening up, and we were cautiously optimistic that soon we would be returning to our lives and our building and to our community after being apart for a very long time. However, with new variants and the continuing need to be cautious, there is still much uncertainty and many challenges ahead. The meaning of Teshuvah, we begin again, keeps changing under our feet. We may be beginning again, but we're not quite sure how. As I wrote in the High Holiday booklet, the only lasting truth is change. Of course, change can be unsettling and stressful, but it can also be exciting. With our old habits and ways of living gone, we have the opportunity to create something new. Only after we chose the unifying message did I realize that this is also a Shemitah year. The Torah commands that every 7th year, the land will lie fallow, debts will be forgiven, and slaves will be released. If there is economic injustice, if people have lost their land, their homes, their livelihood, as so many have recently, we are commanded to make that right. If the land is depleted, we must allow it to rest. Shemitah is a time to hit the reset button. A whole year of Sabbath, of pausing and reflecting, time for the land and people to be nourished and replenished. Shemitah is also a time of letting go, of not holding on so tightly to our possessions, our grudges, to what we feel people owe us. So how perfect to have a Shemitah year when we are in the middle of figuring out how to begin again. Shemitah is a reminder that we don't have to rush. Maybe one thing that we can take from the pandemic is that we don't have to return to the hectic pace of our lives before. A friend who retired this year from being a Lutheran minister sent me an article called "The Second Marathon," a thought for pastors on walking the new normal. My friend said, "Hannah, this is for you. Just substitute rabbi every time it says pastor." And I would venture to say that this is for all of us. The wisdom in this article applies if you just substitute human being every time it says pastor. The author, Jenny Smith, says that we have just run a marathon. She lists all of the things that clergy have done in the past 18 months, but so many others could make their own lists. Parents, teachers, healthcare workers, synagogue leaders, retail workers, and so many others have run their own version of a marathon. Then the author writes, "We crossed the finish line. We did a hard thing. Then, instead of collapsing in a heap, instead of drinking water, instead of resting our aching bodies, something else happened. An official-looking race organizer slapped another number on our backs, pushed us toward another starting line, and wait, what? Another marathon? Yes," she says. "Our second marathon has begun, ready or not." And she asks, what if we walked the second marathon, side by side? No racing, no competing, resting when it's time to rest, saying yes to a new idea when it glistens with possibility, saying no when something feels too heavy, giving others permission to rest, loving people with beautiful boundaries in place, taking a nap. Maybe this is how we begin again. We walk, we take breaks, we laugh. We take the concept of Shemitah deep into our bodies. In this time of upheaval and change, Judaism has given us this gift of Shemitah. Time to rest, time to release our hold on the past, time to create something new. The question is, how will we use this gift? A Reconstructionist rabbi named Jenny Rosen started a new organization called Dayenu, a Jewish call to climate action. She writes, "This time of disruption has given us unexpected opportunity to re-envision and rebuild the world, to dream big, to bring to life something profoundly different." Rabbi Rosen chose the name Dayenu for her organization to send the message that we have enough. She believes we have enough science, enough resources, enough people and power to solve the climate crisis. This is a different perspective than what we usually hear in the news. Most of the climate news is alarming. Wildfires, hurricanes, rising sea levels. But we do have tools to address this crisis. According to a study conducted in June of this year, it is now cheaper to build and operate large-scale solar and wind plants in nearly half the world than it is to operate existing coal or gas-fired plants. Researchers are also developing a way to use a silky thread from fungus to replace plastic. The fungus feeds on trash, making it a win-win alternative to the plastic products that are piling up in our landfills and destroying aquatic life in our rivers, lakes, and oceans. In Kenya, where 80% of the land has become too dry to cultivate, over 35,000 farmers have adopted dryland agroforestry methods. These new technologies are reclaiming land and alleviating famine. These are just a few examples. Human beings are incredibly resourceful. If we direct our intelligence and technology towards solutions, we will have enough resources to save our planet. Rabbi Rosen also chose the name Dayenu because she wants us to think about what is enough for us. Most of us have much more than we need. Our society and our economy are based on consuming and acquiring. Advertising is designed to convince us that we always need more. But this path is leading us to environmental destruction. And I think that people are increasingly aware that acquiring more does not lead to a more joyful, meaningful life. Many of us love the Jewish concept of Lador Vador, from generation to generation, but we have trouble truly facing the fact, the reality, that for our children's children's children, the world may become uninhabitable. When we begin again, we have the opportunity to consider what kind of world we want to pass on, Lador Vador. Gandhi wrote, "There is enough in this world for our need, but not for our greed." To save our lives, to save the lives of future generations, we have to ask ourselves, am I feeding my need or my greed? And we must learn to say Dayenu. We have enough. One of our CBH families who moved away this summer decided to buy a tiny house and live in a tiny house community. They told me that their family of 3 would be living in a 400 square foot house. And I joked that if Don and I lived in a 400 square foot house, there would probably be mayhem. But that night, I dreamed that Don, Bella, and I were shopping for a tiny house. We were on a lot filled with different models of tiny houses. Like on a car lot, some were new and some were pre-owned. One pre-owned house had a price tag of $2,499, which I guess my subconscious offered up because it's the price I paid for my tiny pre-owned car. After I told Bella my dream, though, she sent me a link to a house advertised on Facebook, tiny house advertised on Facebook. You can buy them on Facebook, Marketplace, for $32,000. And I wrote back and said, you see, my dream was not that far from the truth. I doubt that Don and I will decide to live in a tiny house, but it definitely got me thinking about what is enough. What do we really need? Thinking about these questions is part of a larger issue that has absorbed me recently. I have been actively seeking ways to more fully align my life with my professed values. I guess you could say that I am trying to more fully walk the walk. If I say I value justice and equality, if I say I value protecting the environment, if I say I value kindness and compassion, do my actions and my behavior reflect those values? And of course, for me, and probably for all of us, the answer is not completely, not always, because we're human and none of us is perfect. And often we are taking part in things that betray our values without even realizing it. In an article called Money, Power, and Wisdom, Rabbi Elise Wechterman, executive director of the Reconstructionist Rabbinical Assembly, writes, we need to ask questions like, What does any individual require for a life of meaning and dignity? And how do we guarantee that to all of humanity? When does more than enough go from being fortunate and comfortable to being obscene and immoral? And what of our good fortune and comfortable lifestyles are we prepared to give up in order to create a more equitable society? I think her questions are really important. Last year, I spoke about tzedakah and the value of giving, no matter how little or how much you can afford, to create more justice in the world. And that is still essential. But we also have to consider other ways that we can create a more just, equitable, and sustainable world. I want to share a few examples of what Don and I have done recently, not to pat ourselves on the back or to tell you what you should do, but to plant the idea that during this Shemitah year, when we are beginning again, we also might take some time, you might also take some time to consider the steps that you could take to align your life with your values more fully. And those steps will be different for every one of us. So here are my examples. This summer, Don and I signed up for residential composting pickup service. Since moving to New Jersey, we have not had a yard, and it has bothered me to put all of our food waste into the trash. Now there are people who will pick up our waste, collect it, and turn it into compost to nourish the earth. And for us, this turns out to be a great way to reconstruct the concept of Shemitah, even though we are not farmers. We also decided this summer to switch our credit card and our bank accounts to institutions that invest in green energy and underserved communities. We were no longer comfortable with the idea that we might unintentionally be investing in industries and companies that do not reflect our values. This one is harder, but I'm beginning to wean myself off automatically ordering from Amazon. I'm trying to remember to pause and search for fair trade companies that do not exploit the people who make the products that I want or need. It's true that these products cost more, and I may not get them as quickly. But if I believe that every life has equal value, that every person is created in the image of God, I cannot justify valuing my convenience over the value of treating all people with fairness and dignity. And finally, if I believe in compassion and kindness, I have to stop snapping at customer service reps when I get frustrated. It really is not their fault. We have this precious time during the high holidays and continuing into our Shemitah year to examine our lives. What if we take the wisdom of Jewish tradition seriously and use this time to consider how we can nourish ourselves and the world? What if we slow down and find time for what is most important to us? What if we pay attention to how our lives align with our values? What if we ask ourselves, what is enough? And recognize that if we need less, we can work less, we can play more, rest more, laugh more. We can do more of the things that bring us joy. What if this year we begin again in a whole new way? Please turn to page 17 in your booklet. The next song was written by an Israeli musician named Boaz Sharabi. It's called Lahatchil Me'atchala, to begin from the beginning. We sang it in Hebrew in rabbinical school, but Myra offered to fit the English translation into the melody. I am extremely grateful to her for bringing the theme of beginning again into a musical setting. Lahatchil Me'atchala.
great job, Myra. Thank you. And we turn to page 544 for a Chatzi Kaddish as we prepare for the shofar service. Yitkadash, Yitkadash, Shmei Rabbah, Bi'alema Divrach Yiruteh, Bi'amlich Malchuteh, B'chayechon u'v'yomechon, ובחיי לכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן, אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה, יתברך, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה לעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן מעלמה ואמרו אמן, amen. Please turn to page 592 as we begin the shofar service. Our shofarot get themselves into place. Yes. And to introduce the shofar service.
Thank you. All right. Yeah, so the heart of the Rosh Hashanah Musaf Amidah are the three sections we come to now. Malchuyot, God as sovereign, Zichronot, God's remembering, and Shofarot, God and revelation. Traditionally, each section is structured identically and contains 10 verses from all three sections of the Tanakh, 3 from Torah, 3 from the prophets, 3 from the writings, and 1 additional verse from Torah. Each section is then followed by a shofar blow. Rather than reading out of Tanakh this morning, however, I will offer a brief reading and question for you to consider as you listen to the blasts of the shofar.
My apologies, Adam. In trying to live lighter on the earth, I didn't reprint the final version of the outline, which had the Adam introduced it. So here we are, 592. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu. Oh, please do stand. Thank you, Zach. Melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lishmoa kol shofar. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. אמן. תקיעה. דברים תרועה. תקיעה. Shvarim Trua. Tekiya. Tekiya. Shvarim Trua. Tekiya.
Stein wrote, "Belief in God has to do with our attitude towards life itself. Do we find life good? Is life worthwhile? If we believe that life is good, that in spite of sickness and accidents, in spite of poverty and war, in spite of all the sad and difficult conditions in the world is a wonderful place to live in and can be made a still better place, then we believe in God." What do you think of this definition of believing in God? How does it land with you here on this first day of Rosh Hashanah?
Turn to page 652. Tkiya Shvarim Tkiya Tkiya Shvarim Tkiya Tkiya Shvarim Tkiya
Please have a seat. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel wrote, "Judaism does not command us to believe. It commands us to remember. The commandment of faith in the Torah is remember, that you may remember the day of your departure from the land of Egypt as long as you live. We are a people in whom the past endures, in whom the present is inconceivable without moments gone by. Jews have not preserved the ancient monuments. They have retained the ancient moments. The light kindled in their history was never extinguished. With sustaining vitality, the past survives in their thoughts, hearts, rituals. Recollection is a holy act. We sanctify the present by remembering the past." And I'll invite you to sit with this question for 30 seconds, maybe, before we start singing again. What or whom are you remembering this morning? What memories are you carrying forward with you into the new year?
Please rise. And we're on page 664. Tkiya Trua Tkiya Tkiya Trua Tkiya Tkiya Trua Tkiya Gedola
have a seat. And our final reading for this section, Rabbi Milton Steinberg wrote, "For untold generations, our ancestors listened as we do at this season to the sound of the shofar. What did they hear in its piercing tones? What solemn truth did they detect in its melodies that stirred them to improve the world? What does it say to us who stand between 2 years, groping for a light to guide us? Tekiyah, let us heed the tekiyah of the shofar and rouse ourselves from thoughtlessness, lest we waste our lives in search of wealth that avails not, and pleasures in which there is no peace. Shvarim, let us heed the shvarim of the shofar. Let us open our ears to the cry of suffering humanity, our hearts to compassion and love. Truah, listen now to the trumpet blast of the truah. Give of your bread to those who hunger, and of your strength to those who fail. Give of your energies to justice and truth. Then will the evils that oppress humanity pass away. In our hearts and in our minds, we hold the means whereby these scourges can be banished from the earth forever. Notice how the blasts of the shofar are landing in your ears this year. Is it different than in years before? What is the shofar calling you to this year? Sit with that for 30 seconds.
Continue on page 672. We continue on page 672. The top paragraph is Sim Shalom, and then we'll follow it with the Sefer Chaim, which is the second paragraph.
Hey,
sort of a mournful melody, but you've got a little clapping and it's joyful. On page 671, the last paragraph, please read with me in English. In the book of life, blessing and peace and proper sustenance, may we be remembered and inscribed, we and all your people, the house of Israel, for a good life and for peace. Blessed are you, compassionate one, maker of peace. We turn to page 674.
If it weren't noon already, I'd do the long version, but I'm going to do the short version. So join me in where you can. Hayom, 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 hayom ta'ametzeinu, amen. Hayom, 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 hayom tevarecheinu, amen. Hayom, 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 hayom tegadaleinu, amen. Hayom, 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 tidrashenu letova, amen. Hayom, hayom, tichtavenu lechayim tovim, amen. Hayom, 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 tishma shabbatenu, amen. Hayom tekabel berachamim uvratzon et tefilatenu, amen. Hayom, hayom, titmechenu b'min tzidekecha, amen.
Amen. The short one's pretty great too. Arlene.
Announcements. At 12 o'clock today, Tashlich.
So actually, it's 12 o'clock now. So in
Oh.
about 15 minutes after the service ends, we'll head up.
I thought it was 10:30.
Time flies.
Well, in about 15 minutes, meet out front for Tashlich. I can't say it. I apologize. Services tomorrow, Rosh Hashanah Day 2 at 10 a.m. in person and on Zoom. And remember, if you're coming in person, come to the back door, wear your blue band. You won't have to check in. Today, when you leave by the back door, there's an Oneg grab and go bag from membership. Thank you. This coming Friday, September 10th, is Shabbat Shuvah. That's the Shabbat that falls between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. It will be a poetry Shabbat, and it is entirely virtual on Zoom at 7:30. And look in BetNet for the link. Erev Yom Kippur is next Wednesday, September 15th at 7:30. And just keep your eye out for your BetNet for the most up-to-date information.
Just one question, Arlene, for people who are here. For Tashlich, do we go out the front or do they have to go out? Okay, we can go out the front. Great. Okay.
A quick, so just a quick reminder that day 2 of Rosh Hashanah is very different from day 1 because there are a lot of things we didn't do today, like read from the Torah, and we're going to take advantage of our technology to actually show the Torah as we're reading it. And instead of a yad, we'll use a cursor, and it'll be an interactive, fun thing, and there'll be a lot of other fun things tomorrow. So I hope I see a lot of you and some of the folks who seem to have not made it through on the chat. So, Kiddush, do folks rise? Sure, up you go. It's a quick one. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Amen. L'chaim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. And turn to page 18 in your booklets for
Rabbi Joe Blacks, open the gates.
Leading with this, and so as we conclude, just be very careful of the wires on your way out, please. All right.
Open the gates of justice. Open the gates of me. Open the gates of righteousness. Include me. Open the gates of freedom. Tell me what are we waiting for? Include me. Shine and set that Calvary on. Oh, yeah. Include me. Shine and set that Calvary on. Oh, yeah. Open the gates of hatred. Throw away the weed. Open the gates of justice. Include me. Open the gates of tomorrow. Yes, the travel goes so far. Include me. Shine and set that Calvary on. Oh, yeah. Include me. Shine and set that Calvary on. Oh, yeah. Keep on going. Till the stone that the builders rejected becomes the chief cornerstone. Till the stone that the builders rejected becomes the chief cornerstone. Open the gates of justice. Open the gates for me. Open the gates of righteousness. Include me. Open the gates of tomorrow. Yes, we traveled us so far. Include me. Shine and set that Calvary on. Oh, they are. Include me. Shine and set that Calvary on. Oh, they are. Include me. Shine and set that Calvary on. Oh, they are. Include me. Shine and set that Calvary on. Oh, they
Before we get dispersed, I just need to say a quick thank you for everybody who made this possible, and especially to our amazing tech team. This could not happen without them. Shana Tova, and hope to see some of you out at Tisch.